I want to give a special shout out to all my patrons first. Thank you so much to my Bibliospren, Bibliohowlers, and my Bibliomancers. It means a lot to me that you give me your extra support for my passion and hobby. Hi everyone, Petrik here. So for today's video, this has been a long time coming. I have received so many requests from my viewers, from all of you, saying that you want to see my updated bookshelf tour videos. So yeah, today I will finally be posting my bookshelf tour video. And yeah, my patrons picked this as my video of the month, and I'm happy to oblige. As always, there will be 4 exhibits here, and I believe in total, I think there will be more than 1,000 books in today's video. If that's really true, well, it means that it is officially a library. My collection of books is officially a library, so let's call that a library of Petrik Leo, if that's true. And we will see, we will find out. I will mention the numbers of how many books I own each time I finish recording an exhibit. So yeah, I think let's get started immediately. I know that this video will be long. Let's start from the bookshelves behind my back first. So I'm going to start from the top shelf, from the left to the right. And moving on below, I will also start from the left to the right. So first one here, we have the Sword of Kaigen, Raidmark Creative Edition. I have 2 of them because one of them is actually damaged. So this is the replacement copy. And then this one is the hardcover edition of Blood Over Brighthaven, the paperback edition, and also the Sword of Kaigen, again, paperback edition. This is all by M.L. Wang. And moving on after that, we have books by Fondali, one of my favorite authors of all time. And this is, of course, the paperback edition of the Green Bone Saga, Jade City, Jade War, and Jade Legacy. After that, we have the Jade Scepter of Janlun and Jade Shards. These are the Subterranean Press edition. I am waiting for Jade City Subterranean Press edition at the moment. And then this is Untethered Sky by Fondali. I have 2 of them as well. And this is the Green Bone Saga Illumicrate edition. And on the top here, you can see this bookmark. This is Kao Lan, Kao Xue, and Kao Hilo. I got this from buying the Illumicrate edition of the Green Bone Saga. And here is some merchandise from that edition as well. And at the back here, you can actually see a copy of Art of Destiny and also Art of Prophecy. Or this one is Art of Prophecy and this is Art of Destiny. I'm trying to save space here. And speaking of these books by Wesley Chu, to the right of the Green Bone Saga, we have, again, Art of Destiny and Art of Prophecy, but the Broken Binding edition. Lovely edges, and this is also the Broken Binding edition, but this is the Dandelion Dynasty by Ken Liu. I think this has become some of Broken Binding's most coveted special editions, and they will be doing a midnight edition, I think, quite soon from now. And here we have the Dandelion Dynasty again, but the US hardcover edition. One of my favorite series of all time, and this is the Hidden Girl and Other Stories. And finally, the Paper Menagerie and Other Stories, basically the Ken Liu section. And so let's move on below. Starting from the left, this is the Dragonbone Chair, Grip of Press edition. And then we have the UK hardcovers of The Witchwood Crown and Empire of Grass. All 3 are by Ted Williams. And of course, we have here the Sun Eater series by Christopher Roque. And this is the deluxe hardcover edition of Dune by Frank Herbert. And here, slipping in, we have another copy of the paperback edition of Empire of Silence by Christopher Roque. And to the right here, this is the Bound and the Broken series by Ryan Cahill. And behind this, there is actually Of Darkness and Light and also The Ice, the physical advanced reading copy edition by Ryan Cahill as well. But again, I'm trying to save space. And this is Of Blood and Fire, the Broken Binding Press edition. This is Threadlight, a deluxe omnibus edition by Zach Argyle. It's a Child of the Night Guild, Queen of Thieves by Andy Peloquin. Threat of Shadows by Janice Andrews. And this is a Warhide series by A.C. Coble. So basically, these are the Kickstarter campaign special editions. And this is Dragon Mage by M.L. Spencer. And finally, Dreams of the Dying by Nicholas Litzel. Love these 2 books, and I am waiting for the letterbound edition of Dragon Mage right now. So let's move on below again. I think this is also a section that you can usually see in my usual book tour videos. First, let's start with the Lycaenius trilogy by James Islington. These are the Broken Binding editions and also the standard UK hardcover edition. And then we have The Will of the Many, the Broken Binding edition, and then the standard hardcover of The Will of the Many, again by James Islington. Love this book very much. It was my favorite fantasy book of last year. And here we have a little bit of Janny Ward's section. Curse of the Mistwraith, Ships of Meria, which combined the second and the third book in the series of Words of Light and Shadow, and then Rift War Empire Trilogy by Raymond E. Weiss and Janny Wirtz. And at the back here, there is actually To Write Hell's Chasm and also Storm Warden by Janny Wirtz as well. And moving to the right, this is The Purple Prince by Sebastian Menkes, The King Killing Queen by Sean Spickman, Evil is a Matter of Perspective, a collection of short stories published by Grimdark magazine, just like the King Must Fall collection of short stories. And to the right, we have an Alchemy of Sorrow collection of short stories, and then some Raidmark hardcover edition, Neon Goose by Daniel Green, A Mark of Kings by Bryce O'Connor and Luke Shmilenko, which is the first book in the Shattered Reigns, When Swords Fall Silent collection of short stories, and then Mother of Learning, the first and the second hardcover. And here we have the Rise and Fall trilogy by Michael J. Sullivan, the deluxe leatherbound edition. And now we are moving on to the section where you don't usually read these books on my book to videos because, well, this bookshelves is too short. But this shelf is pretty much the Yen Press and Ize Press books. We have 86 and then Ishura, Business Proposal, Solo Leveling, The World After the Fall, and then Tomb Raider King, Jungle Juice, and Horizon. And here also we have Bell, which I really need to start watching. This is Blade and Bastards. And then finally Dark Souls and Overlord. And that's not even all of the Yen Press books and Ize Press books that I got. Feel free to pause this screen. And moving to the right, we have some indie and also broken binding edition. This is The Exile of Zanzibar by Daniel Madman, and Aragon, and also Murta. Murta is broken binding edition, and these two books are by Paulini. This is The Perdido Street Station by China Mieville. Need to read this one. And this is The Powder Mage Trilogy by Brian McClellan. Love the Edges by Rene Eichner. And this is, I think the title of this trilogy is The Hang God Trilogy by Tilde Coulthard. I think at the moment, the third book in the trilogy is coming, Slaughtered Gods. And finally, the last two books on the right, these are the Page and Wick edition. This one is The Fangs of War, and on the right here, this is The Sword of Kaigen. And finally, we have arrived at the bottom of the shelves, and this one is My Hero Academia Volume 21 until Volume 36. And at the top here, we have The Boy, The Mole, The Fox, and The Horse by Charlie McKenzie. And to the right of My Hero Academia, we have Elden Ring manga and then Death Note. This is the entire series all in one edition. Again, this is Death Note, Another Note, and finally Death Note short stories. And this one is Witch Hat Atelier by Kamome Shirahama. Love this manga series as well. I pretty much love all these manga. These are my English language manga collection. Not all of them, but some of them. And finally, this is the final shelf, and this one is again some broken binding edition and a mix of some literary fiction. On the left here, we have The Adventures of Amina Al-Sirafi by Shannon Chakraborty, and then these are the Samantha Shannon's portion. This is Bone Season, this is The Priory of the Orange Tree, and this one is A Day of Fallen Light. And here we have Shelley Parker Chan's book, She Who Became the Sun and He Who Drowned the World. And then this one is Divine Rivals, All the Light We Cannot See, A Little Life Again. I haven't read this one yet. And then Pachinko by Min Jin Lee. And finally, Shugi Bane by Douglas Stewart. So this is actually the end of this shelf. But if we move on to the left here, we have another mini shelf. And this is where I keep some of my books as well. This one, let's start from the bottom. On the left, you can see there's the Poppy War Trilogy by R.F. Kuang. And then I forgot the name of this trilogy, but Ancillary Justice, Ancillary Sword, and Ancillary Mercy by Anne Leckie. And then the Broken Earth Trilogy by N.K. Jemisin. And then Ithaca by Claire North. And the sequel, House of Odysseus by Claire North as well. And this is The Pursuit of William Abbey by Claire North. And on the top here, we have the hardcover edition and also the advanced reading copy edition of the Poppy War. And on the shelf above that, we have on the left, The Memoirs of Lady Trent by Mary Brennan. I'm still in the middle of reading the series right now. And on the top, we have the fifth book, Within the Sanctuary of Wings by Mary Brennan, and also Labyrinth's Heart by M. A. Carrick, the third and the final book in the Rook and Rose trilogy. And this one is also written by Mary Brennan, co-written with another author as well. And this is Thieves of Faith by Tracy Townsend. I haven't read this one. And here we have little Naomi Novik's collection. This is The Last Graduate and also The Golden Enclaves by Naomi Novik, the second and the third book in the Scholar Man series, and this is Spinning Silver, my favorite book by Naomi Novik so far, and this is my Madeline Miller's books, The Song of Achilles and also Circe. And finally on the right here we have God Killer and also Tell the Wolves I'm Home by Carol Rivka Brandt. I haven't actually read this one. This is my wife's book, but I'm keeping it here. And finally, above this is the last portion of this shelf. First, we have the Devin Madsen collection, starting with, I think, Vengeance trilogy, and then this is the Reborn Empire series. And this one is a broken binding edition of Chronicles of the Wolf Queen by K.S. Veloso. And here on the top, we have In Shadows We Fall by Devin Madsen and The Surviving Sky by Kritika Rao. And here, finally, on the right, we have Just Out Air. And this one is back to my Licanius shelf. And that's it. That's pretty much the end of this section of my bookshelf tour, the first exhibit. But if you want to see more, this is at the top. You can see some of my review copies paper sent by publishers. Yeah, there are. It's quite thick. I didn't think that I would be able to accumulate so many of this. But this is pretty much the end. But let's not forget, there is actually one floating shelf over here. This is pretty much the Anthony Ryan's portion. So let's start from the bottom. This is the Covenant of Steel trilogy, starting with the Pariah, the Martyr, and finally the Traitor. And on the top we have, tada! This is first. Let's start from the top, okay? This one is Bloodsong, my favorite book by Anthony Ryan, and then the Draconis Memoria trilogy. And after that we have Red River 7, and then the Wolf's Call again, and finally the Black Song. And on the top, behind this, there is actually a jigsaw puzzle of Slamda, one of my favorite manga series. And on the right, there is again another jigsaw puzzle actually. This is of Attack on Titan. I bought this when I was in Japan, and I think it is still one of my most treasured collection. See? It is so beautiful. So yeah, that's the end of the first exhibit of my bookshelf tour. So as a recap, this is how it looks. Now we move on to the second exhibit, and this will be a long table, and one of the reasons why I managed to store a lot of books. You will see what I mean as I progress. Let's start from the left here. This first, we have the Blake Crouch collection, Dark Matter, Recursion, and Upgrade, and on the top, we have some more sci-fi books by Cixin Liu. Ball Lightning, The Wandering Earth, and then The Remembrance of Earth's Past trilogy, and finally here we have Babel Illuminated Edition by R.F. Kuang. And on the right, we have a mix of horror, a thriller, literary fiction, pretty much a mix of everything. This is I Let You Go by Claire McIntosh, Between Two Fires by Christopher Buhlman, How to Sell a Haunted House by Gregory Hendricks, The Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires by Hendricks again, The Last House on Needless Streets by Katrina Ward, S.A. Hinton, The Outsiders 50th Anniversary Edition, The Vegetarian by Han Kang, The Gifts of Reading, this one is a non-fiction, and then The Remains of the Day by Kazuo Ishiguro, and then this is the Frederick Bachman portion, A Man Called Ove, My Grandmother Sends Her Regards and Apologies, and then And Every Morning the Way Home Gets Longer and Longer. Beautiful book. On the top here we have again non-fiction by Matt Haig, Reasons to Stay Alive, Notes on a Nervous Planet. I haven't read the two of them. And this is The Millennium Trilogy by Stieg Larsson, a box set, and The Kind Word Killing by Peter Swanson, Fireman by Joe Hill, and The Sun, and also The Red Press by Joe Nesbo. And on the right here, moving on below, this one is again by Frederick Bachman, Brit Mary Was Here, and then The Underground Railroad by Coulson. And this one is my R.J. Barker's collection. First we have the Wounded Kingdom trilogy, and then this is the Tide Child trilogy, beautiful edition by The Broken Binding. And this one is Gods of the Word Wood, the hardcover edition and also the advanced reading copy. And on the right we have The Black Tongue Thief by Christopher Buhlman again, and then Harbinger of Justice by Andrew Watson, and The Serpents of Wings and Night by Carissa Broadbent. And on the top of this we have a few art books. This is an art book of Odin Sphere This one is of Sekiro. Yeah, Sekiro video game. And this is Dark Souls. Again, Dark Souls. But this is a mix of Dark Souls and Bloodborne. And all of this are illustrated by John Devlin. One of my favorite artists, really. I think he is super good. And I hope many of you will check out his work. And this is a reading light that I use to read my physical books at night. And below this, we have The Cemetery of Forgotten Books by Carlos Ruiz Zafón. And also, The City of Mist is a collection of short stories by Zafón, the last published book by him, unfortunately. And on the right, we have books by Hilary Mantel, Wolf Hall, Bring Up the Bodies, and The Mirror and the Light. And then The Mexican Gothic by Silvia Moreno Garcia. And then The Red Dragon by Thomas Harris, The Vanished Birds by Simon Jimenez. And on the top here, we have my collection of bookmark. Yeah, that's a lot of them, and that's not even all of them. On the left here, this is pretty much the traditionally published books bookmark, and this is my indie bookmark. There are so many of them. Back to the books, on the right of The Vanished Birds, we have my Robert Jackson Bennett collection. First is the Divine City trilogy, City of Stairs, City of Blades, and then City of Miracles, and then Vigilance, and finally the Founders trilogy, and also the newest book, The Tainted Cup. This one is the Broken Binding edition, and here we have this toy of SpongeBob and also Petrik. I got this somewhere, I cannot even remember. But on the right of The Tainted Cup, this is the Vanished Birds hardcover again by Simon Jimenez, and finally The Spear Cuts Through Water. And then this is The Witcher illustrated edition. This is The Last Wish, and this one is Sword of Destiny by Andrzej Sapkowski, again illustrated edition. And here we have the box set of The Lord of the Rings, a beautiful box set. This is the paperback edition, and this one is the Arc of a Scythe trilogy, and also the sequel collection of short stories, I think, by Neil Shusterman. I haven't read this one, but I do plan to read it this year. And above that, we have this one stack. This is the Raria Revelations hardcover, deluxe hardcover edition that I bought from Michael J. Sullivan, and then Nolan by Michael J. Sullivan, and again Legends of the First Empire by Michael J. Sullivan. And here we have No Face from Spirited Away, and also this dragon that I got from my friend Dorina. So yeah, now we move on again to the right. See, it is a long table. And on the right here, if you have watched my previous bookshelf tour video, then you will know this bookshelf. This is also where I record my my book tour videos. And yeah, let's start from this one. See, there is the outside and the inside shelf. Let's start from the outside portion first. From the bottom here, we have another copy of The Witcher illustrated edition, and this is a copy of The Last Wish, and then this is The Lost War, the advanced reading copy, and again The Lost War, and finally the sequel, The Bitter Crown by Justin Lee Anderson. And this one is my Garrett Hanrahan's collection. This is the advanced reading copy, the God of Prayer, and this one is The Sword Defiant, his newest book that I haven't read yet, but the sequel to The God of Prayer is The Shadow Saint and also The Broken God. This is the second and the third book in the Black Iron Legacy. And above that, we have the Band series by Nicholas Eames, and also two books by Benedict Jacka in the Alex Verus series. Above that, this is pretty much my Mark Lawrence collection. The Broken Empire trilogy, and then this is the Red Queen's War trilogy, and this is the Book of the Ancestor trilogy, and finally Book of the Ice trilogy. And then we have The Book That Wouldn't Burn by Mark Lawrence. This one is sent to me by one of my patrons. I am so thankful for that. And on the left, we have the advanced reading copy of Legends and Lattice. So this is pretty much just like Tetris here. And above The Book That Wouldn't Burn, this is Frankenstein illustrated edition. I need to read that within this year. And above that, we have my J. Christoph's collection. This is Nevernight, God's Grave, Dark Dawn, Empire of the Vampire, and Empire of the Vampire illustrated edition. Above that, we have Legends and Lattice again, and Bookshelves and Bone Dust. This is the UK, this is the UK advanced reading copy. This is the UK hardcover of Bookshelves and Bone Dust. And finally, above that, we have my historical fiction collection. Let's start from the bottom. This is Bernard Cornwell, Warlord, and then we have Amar Towles' books, A Gentleman in Moscow, and also The Lincoln Highway. I plan to read this one within this year, hopefully sooner than later. And on the right here, we have Gates of Fire by Stephen Pressfield. And then this is the Troy Trilogy by David Gemmell. And for the last one, this is written by Stella Gemmell as well. And finally, above that, we have my Arthurian Tales portion. This one is the Warlord Chronicles Trilogy by Bernard Cornwell, The Winter King, Enemy of God, and Excalibur. And this is the Arthurian Tales by Giles Christian, Lancelot, Camelot, and also Arthur. And this one we have Where Blood Runs Cold by Giles Christian as well. This is a thriller by him that I haven't read yet, and this is The Little Prince. And to close the second exhibit of this bookshelf tour, let's move on to the inside shelf. First, we have book 16 and book 17 by Jim Butcher, and then the Expand series up to book 8 by James S.A. Corey, and above that we have 2 copies of Age of Ash by Daniel Abraham, and also A Monster Calls by Petrik Ness. This is an adventuring copy of Age of Ash. This is the Goldsboro edition. And on the right of this, we have Age of Ash again. So it means that I have 3 of them and I haven't read this. And after that, we have Blade of Dream, the sequel to Age of Ash. This is the first 2 books in the Kitamar trilogy. I'm waiting for the 3rd book right now. And below that, we have my Brand Weeks collection. This is Night Angel trilogy and the sequel, Night Angel Nemesis, and then the Lightbringer series. And behind that, we have actually 2 Stephen Pressfield's books. But I am too lazy to get that out. Let's move on below. This is my George R. Martin's collection, A Part Anyway. But let's start from this one. This is the new cyberpunk book published by Orbit Books. And this is the Books of Odyssey Omnibus Edition. And then Fire and Blood by George Martin, Night of the Seven Kingdom, and then the first 3 books in A Song of Ice and Fire, Illustrated Edition. And finally here we have The World of Ice and Fire and also The Rise of the Dragon. Beautiful editions, and I need to really read The Rise of the Dragons. And this one is Ruination by Anthony Reynolds. Somehow I end up with a dust jacket, so that's why I have 2 of them, but actually this one is empty. And finally, the last one, also you can actually see this is the pin that I talk about in collaboration with Wild Crown or Raidmark. And yeah, I think they look beautiful. Take a look at Chocobo here. Ta-da! And above here, we have the prototype version. Ta-da! But anyway, let's move on to the final one. This is an expensive part, okay? This one is Coraline, Lyra Book Edition, Book of the New Sun, Folio Society Edition. And these are all A Song of Ice and Fire, Folio Society Edition, Game of Thrones, Clash of Kings, and Storm of Swords. And here we have this print that I got from Christopher Rocchio. These are several bookmarks that I got from the Secret Projects and also the blade itself, Curious King Edition, which I will talk about later. But yeah, this is pretty much the end of the second exhibit of my bookshelf tour. So to recap, this is pretty much how it looks. Now let's move on to the third exhibit, which is this massive bookshelf on the right. Well, not massive, but this one, this bookshelf is the reason why I'm able to accumulate a lot of books. Really a big reason, because you will see what I'm talking about. I will just start from the top here, from the top bookshelf, and then I will just let you know now that this is double stack. Yeah. This one is double stack, so the way this goes, I will tell you what book I have in front first, and then after that, I will show you what's on the back. So let's start from the top. First, we have Berserk Deluxe Edition by Kentaro Miura, one of my favorite manga series of all time. And of course, I have to gather all of them. This is all of them completed, 14 volumes, and it took me years to gather all of them. And on the right here, we have Shogun by James Clavell. And moving on below, we have Brandon Sanderson's section and also Robert Jordan. So this, over here we have Origins of the Wheel of Time by Michael Livingston, and then Warrior of the Altai by Robert Jordan, and then A Memory of Light, I have 2 of them, by Robert Jordan and Brandon Sanderson. Here we have the hardcover copy of The Lost Metal, Trash of the Emerald Sea, Yumi and the Nightmare Painter, and then Arcanum Unbounded, the Cosmic Collection. And then on the right, this is the Secret Project novels, the Dragon's Tail edition. Absolutely beautiful edition. And after that, something even more beautiful, the leatherbound edition of the Cosmere books. Honestly, this is one of the most expensive collection in my entire bookshelf tour. And I am grateful because out of all of this, the only one that I actually bought by myself, it was Hero of Ages and then Warbreaker. The rest were gifted to me by my friends. And yeah, I treasure all of them. As you can see, I am missing a copy of Elantris. I probably will get that someday. But right now, I'm waiting for Words of Radiance. And on the top here, we have Mistborn Secret History, Watership Down by Richard Adams, sent to me by my friend Sarah. Thank you so much, Sarah. And this is my first ever physical copy, the Mistborn Trilogy box set. The first set of books that I bought by myself, and it is also the reason why I started reading fantasy novels. And then here we have Dawn Shot. And above it, this is the Kaladin album. Behind that, that's actually an art print by Randy Vargas. I will show it to you later, but let's move on below first. This is my Tolkien section. Starting from the left, that's the Lord of the Rings and also the Hobbit box set sent to me by one of my patrons. Thank you so much. And then after that, we have the History of the Hobbit, written by John D. Radcliffe, the Silmarillion, and the Unfinished Tales of Middle-earth, and the Unfinished Tales of Numenor and Middle-earth, and then the Fall of Numenor, and then the Three Great Tales of Middle-earth, the Children of Húrin, Beren and Luthien, the Fall of Gondolin, and finally, Tales from the Perilous Realm. And on the right, we have also the Rune Lords by David Farland. I haven't read that one yet. I heard the magic system is incredible, and I hope I can get around to that as soon as I can. That one is sent to me by my friend as well. Thank you so much to Steph. And this is A Starling House by Alex Harrow, Tigana by Guy Gabriel Kay, and this one is kind of hard to see, but that's The Wolf and also The Spider by Leo Carrew. And on the right, we have this little stack of Orbit books. Let's start from the top. This is Fate and Folk by Eliza Chan. I haven't read this book yet. And then below is Empire of Exiles by Erin Evans, the advanced reading copy, and also the physical, the trade paperback edition. And then that's the 10,000 Doors of January, The Once and Future Witches by Alex Harrow, and then finally, the Drowning Empire Trilogy by Andrea Stewart. This one is the advanced reading copy edition. And same rule as before, I will talk about what's behind this later. And moving on below, here we have my John Gwynne section. On the left, we have The Faithful and the Fallen, the Broken Binding hardcover edition, and then Of Blood and Bone Trilogy. And on the right of the Banished Land Saga, let's start from the top. You cannot actually see this, but above it, there is actually another book. But this is the Bonds of Kin series by Al-R. Schultz. I haven't read this series yet. And below that, we have the Burning Blade and Silver Eye trilogy by Django Wexler, Ashes of the Sun, Blood of the Chosen, and also Emperor of Ruin. All of them are Goldsboro edition. And this one is A Time of Dread, again by John Gwynne, but this is the, I think it was the advanced reading copy edition. Yeah. And below that, advanced reading copy of Shadow of the Gods again, and Shadow of the Gods again. Because this one is the trade edition and also the Goldsboro edition. And the same goes for the Hunger of the Gods. Yeah, this is the standard hardcover and also the Goldsboro edition. Currently waiting for the Fury of the Gods, which should be out in October 2024. And on the right here, we have two copies of Sons of Darkness by Gaurav Mohanty. The top one is the first edition published in India, and then the second one here is the one traditionally published by Head of Zeus. And this is The Last Ranger by J.D.L. Rossell. After that, we have the Rob J. Hayes section, starting from Where Loyalties Lie, The Fifth Empire of Man, and then the Mortal Technique series, and finally, the 5 books in the War Eternal series. Love the Mortal Techniques, but I still need to read the War Eternal series. And finally, moving on below, this is the last one. Here we have Davish Ashura's books, and then after that we have Matthew Wolf's books. Most of these are actually indie books, and I haven't read the one on the left yet. And it also consists of The Other Magic and The Other Way by Derek Smythe. And to the right of this, we have the Wildfire Cycle by D.P. Woolleyscroft. And then after that, Michael Webb's books, The Shadow Knight, The Rise of the Shadow, and also Shadow of Destiny, and Virginia McLean's trilogy. I forgot the name of this series. And finally, Heart of the Bloodstone by Philina Wood. And on the right here, this is pretty much Adrian Tchaikovsky's books, starting from Children of Ruin, Children of Memory, and then The Doors of Eden, Shards of Earth, Children of Ruin again, hardcover, and also Shards of Earth, and finally Lords of Uncreation. I'm so looking forward to reading this one, Shards of Earth and also Lords of Uncreation, but I'm missing the second book right now. And also on the top we have two books by T.J. Klune that I haven't read yet, Under the Whispering Door and also The House of the Cerulean Sea. So before I talk about the back portion of this shelf, let's do a recap. This is the front page, the front portion. And now let's take a look at the back portion of this bookshelf. Let's start from the left. These are pretty much my Indonesian translated manga volumes. There are plenty of them, but this is not all of them, because if I talk about all of them, well, this bookshelf tour will be much longer than it already is. But these are Spy Family, Blue Lock, Record of Ragnarok, and also Vagabond by Takehiko Inoue. Vagabond and Blue Lock in particular are really some of my favorite series of all time. And then back to novels. These are, start from the top. This is Kingdom of Grit trilogy by Tyler Whiteside. And this is Luke Arnold's urban fantasy trilogy. I have read two of them. I haven't read One Foot in the Faith yet. And then this is Engines of Empire by R.S. Ford, the first book in the Age of Uprising, and then A Boy and His Dog at the End of the World. And slipping in here, this is Bloodborne graphic novels. I don't recommend them. I strongly recommend playing the game instead. And then here we have on the right, Adrian Selby's books, Snakewood, The Winter Road, Brother Red, and then after that, Boys in the Valley by Philip Fracassi, Master of Sorrows by Justin Cole, Stormblood and Blind Space by Jeremy Szal, In Order to Live by Yeonmi Park, Station 11 by Emily St. John Mandel, and then The Fear of Moncroa by Brian Asher, and also Kite Runner by Khaled Hosseini, and The Giver by Lois Lowry. And moving on below, this is the back. This is Blood of the Spear by Mark Timony. I have two of them because one of them is actually a mistake dedication. It was dedicated to someone else, I think named Mark or Mike, but it was not for me because it got switched off. But anyway, above that, this is The Kingdom of Liars and also The Voyage of the Forgotten by Nick Martel. I have two of them. This one is the advanced reading copy. And then this is The Sun's Blood by Jeremy Bai. And then Wraith Blade by S.M. Boyce. And then here we have the Eden Trilogy by Philip Chase. And then again, Starbinder by Mark Timony. On Writing by Stephen King. Again, Gifted by Sarah Toomey. And Gok Magok by Jeff Noon and Steve Beard. And after that, on the right, we have this one. This is The Core, the advanced reading copy of The Core by Peter V. Brett. And on the top, this is a bonus that I got, The Death of Ivan Ilyich by Leo Tolstoy. And this is Fairy Tale by Stephen King, hardcover. And this is the Stormlight Archive hardcover by Brandon Sanderson. And this is an art print that I bought. This is illustrated by Randy Vargas, one of my favorite artists, and I look forward to framing this. But behind that, as I said, this is the Stormlight Archive by Brandon Sanderson. And below, we have the Cradle trilogy, not trilogy, but the first three books in the Cradle series by Will White. And this is the hardcover edition, and honestly, I regret buying this. Not gonna lie, but I will not spend too much time dwelling on this one. And this is the Painted Man illustrated edition, illustrated by Dominic Bronier. And this says, I want this foil sticker pack, illustrated by Katie Payne. And these are characters from the Stormlight Archive. This is Jasna, and this is Shalan. And also this sticker. Ta-da! Thematic Chicken Scouts. This is so beautiful. I got this from Dragon Steel. And on the right here, we have, on the bottom, three copies of the first binding by R.R. Virdi. All three were actually gifted to me. This one is sent to me by Golangs, this one as well. And this is sent to me by R.R. Virdi's agent. Oh, sorry, that was a mistake. This one is sent to me by R.R. Virdi's agent as well. But above that, we have pretty much all the remaining books by Brandon Sanderson. This is the Mathis, this is the Reckoner trilogy, and this is the Skyward series, and finally Legion Omnibus Edition. I don't have a copy of Defiant hardcover. And moving on to the next shelf, the next section, here we have first an art print of Mamoru, and also Misaki. Misaki is at the back, but this one, I got this from Raidmark. I think they are so beautiful, illustrated by Vinci. But at the back here, we have first, let's start from the bottom again. This is, I forgot the name of the trilogy, but this is a dragon fantasy trilogy by Brian Naslund, Blood of an Exile, Sorcery of a Queen, and then Fury of a Demon. But above that, we have this one. This is the first two books by P.L. Stewart in his, I think, Something Kingdom series, which will be, well, it will contain many books. And then The Daughter of Dr. Moreal by Silvia Moreno Garcia. And then this is a nonfiction, Hollywood Park by Michael Yolet, a great nonfiction. And this is The Great Coat series by Sebastian de Cassel. And at the top, we have Soul Froth by Andrew Givler. And moving on to the right, this is The Last Spy Hunter by Salini Goldenberg, a Thailand-inspired fantasy novel. I haven't read this. And this one is by Suyi Davis Okungboa. The name of the series is The Nameless Republic, and this is the first two books in the trilogy. And then we have The Rage of Dragons and the Fires of Vengeance by Evan Winter. And finally, the Legacy trilogy by Matthew Ward. I have read The Rage of Dragons and the Fires of Vengeance, and also Legacy of Ash, but I haven't read Legacy of Steel and Legacy of Light yet. And also, I got this one last year. This is House of Poison, a narrative art book by Mythify. If you like Roman-inspired historical fiction, try reading it. And then on the right here, we have, on the bottom, Flames of Mira by Clay Harmon, the hardcover edition. And then Perilous Times by Thomas Dealey, The Stardust Thief by Chelsea Abdullah, and then the Books of Babel series by Josiah Bancroft. This is the self-published edition. This is the advanced reading copy edition. And then we have The Hexologist, the newest book by Josiah Bancroft, and then The Darkness Before Them by Matthew Ward again. And finally, the advanced reading copy of Flames of Mira, which I really need to read as well. Moving on below, again, we have here The Grey Bastards by Jonathan French, and then The Martian by Andy Weir. And this one is the Illumine trilogy by Jay Kristoff and also Annie Kaufman. And above that, we have A Ritual of Bone and its sequel, A Ritual of Flesh by Lee Conley. I think this is a fantasy horror. I haven't read this yet. And then Crown of Mantis by Ryan Beatty, The Combat Code self-published edition by Alexander Darwin, Conspiracy of Raven by Stephen Hubbard, and then The Only Good Indians by Stephen Graham Jones, and The Judas Blossom by Stephen Aryan, and also Vert by Jeff Nin. And then moving on to the right, we have Sealed Empire by Norbert Sivich, and then A Time of Blood, advanced reading copy by John Gwynn. Yeah, as you can see, I don't have space for it, so I just put this on the back. And then The Keeper's trilogy, only the first two books by David Dalglish, and then Ringlander by Michael S. Jackson, Pyramidon by GNU Begin, Combat Codes again, but this is the traditionally published edition, The Maleficent Seven by Cameron Johnston, and then The Battle That Was Lost by Michael S. Jackson, and finally, Wick Welker's books, Refraction, Dark Theory, and Saint Elspeth. Dark Theory in particular was really good in my opinion. I have read that one and I look forward to reading the sequel. And below that, we have The Blood of the Outcast by D.A. Smith, and another copy of The Path and the Way, Ringlander by Michael S. Jackson. And on the left, we also have this one slipped in. This is Invisible Planet, collected fiction by Hanu Rajaniemi. And on the right of that, the last one, this is pretty much my Illumicrate collection. There was a time, if you remember, when I actually became a rep for Illumicrate for 1 year long. And these are the books that I got. I don't actually remember all the title here, but this is The Little Thieves, A River Enchanted, and then this one is Gallon by V.E. Schwab. This is a portrait of a thief, and I forgot this one. This is This Woven Kingdom by Tahere Mafi, A Marvelous Light by Freya Marshke. And these are actually Broken Binding Edition. This is The Goblin Emperor and the standalone sequel spin-off, The Witness for the Dead. And now finally we have arrived at the final section of this exhibit. Let's start from the left bottom. That one is A Chorus of Dragons by Jen Lyons, and then above that is A Gamble of Gods by Michelle Faywood. And then I got Her Last Flight by Beatrice Williams, Loki by Melvin Burgess, and then The Armored Saint, The Queen of Crows, and also The Killing Light by Michael. And there is this one here slipped in. This is The Test by Sylvain Newville, Dream of Dead City by P.J. Wosu, and also the Smokesmith series by Joao F. Silva. And to the right here, we have some of David Mitchell's books on the above and also on the bottom. I will talk about that later. But on the top here, we have Slate House and then The Wolf of Orenyaro, Advanced Reading Copy Edition. But this is the self-published edition. And then Songs of Insurrection by J.C. Kang. And then Peace and Turmoil by Elliot Brooks. Really need to read this one. And then the Iconoclast Trilogy by Mike Shell. Blood of Heirs by Alicia Wanstall-Berg. And then The Bone Clocks by David Mitchell. And finally, Sarah J. Maas, Crescent City, House of Earth and Blood. And moving on to the right, this is pretty much the last one here. Starting from the bottom, that is a damaged copy of A Touch of Light. It is very damaged. I will talk about that. I will talk about my replacement copy later, but above that is Rise of the Ranger by Philip C. Quantrill. And above Rise of the Ranger, I have Palmer Pickering's books. The first two books in the Star Children saga, and then Heliotrope. And then here above that, we have Daniel Kelly's books, and then D.W. Ross books, Cold from the North, and also The Darkest Dusk. And then finally, Rise of the Magics by Scott Drakeford, and also The Unspoken Name by A.K. Larkwood. So to recap, this is pretty much how the back portion look. And now we have finally arrived at the fourth and final exhibit of my bookshelf tour video. And as you can see here, this is pretty much my workspace. I am literally surrounded by books. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let's talk about this one first. And as you can see here, this is vertically stacked and also double stacked to the back. This is why I can put so many books in my bookshelf tour. So before I talk about the back one, just like my previous exhibit, let's talk about the front one first. Let's start from this one. This is Children of Gods and Fighting Men. And then this one is The Devoured Worlds by Megan E. O'Keefe. And then Phoenix King by Aparna Verma. And then The Trials of Ashmount by John Palladino. And this is Dreamer's Throne by Seth Ring. Mali 2 series by James Lodalin. Tips and Shadows by B.S.H. Garcia, Sista Samurai by Tatiana Obey, The Cruel Gods by Judy Skies, and then this is Ben Gailey's books, Chasing Graves, and also this one is written together with David Estes. This is Demon's Reign, and then for this one, this is Emaneska, Illustrated Edition, The Written, Pale Kings, and then for this one, the bottom three, this is The Words of Kings and Prophets by Shauna Lawless. And finally, The Trials of Ashmount again, and also Buzzard's Bowl by John Palladino. This is the hardcover edition of The Tragedy of Cadane. And moving on to the right, on the top we have He Who Drowned the World by Shelley Parker Chan. This is the Advanced Reading Copy edition. And this one is Ayla's Reach by Francisca Liliana. And below that, we have the Locked Tomb series by Tamzin Muir, Gideon the Ninth, Herod the Ninth, Nona the Ninth, and after that we have Of Deeds Most Valiant by Sarah K.L. Wilson, Strange the Dreamer duology by Laini Taylor, and then finally Michael Miller's books, The Last Stand of the Stoneface, and this is Songs of the Chaos series, Ascendant, Unbound, and Defiant. I will read this one next month. And finally, The Dragon's Blade omnibus hardcover. And moving on to the right, let's start from the bottom this time, okay? This is Ken Follett's books, The Pillars of the Earth and also World Without End. I'm waiting for the third, fourth, and fifth book in the Kingsbridge series to arrive. They are in my friend's place in the US at the moment. And above that, we have Thursday Murder Club series by Richard Osman. One of my priority series to start reading this year. And again, this is the fourth book, The Last Devil to Die. But this one is sent to me by Dorina, and it is signed by Richard Osman, dedicated to me. I am truly thankful for this gift. And after that, we have this is NYC Questing Guild series by John Arba, Guild of Tokens and also Guild of Magic. Heard a lot of great things about this urban fantasy series. And finally, The Devil and the Dark Water by Stuart Turton. This is Folio Society diary that I got from receiving the Folio Society edition of Clash of Kings and also A Storm of Swords. And now let's start this again. Moving on to the back portion. Starting from the top, this is Year of Wonder by Clemency Burton Hill. Flight from the Dark by Kai. This one is sent to me by a viewer. Very thankful. And then Alpha Clash The Awakening by AJ Light. The Sword of Mercy and Red by NC Kosis. The Faded Dragon by Cameron Michaels. the Thousand Lee series by Tao Wong. Really need to start reading this one as well. And this is Lord of Shadowland and the City of Marble and Blood by Howard Andrew Jones. I heard that this is a great sword and sorcery series. And then again by Howard Andrew Jones. This one is For the Killing of Kings, Upon the Flight of the Queen, and When the Goddess Wakes. After that, we have Rainier by Carl Forshaw. And finally, Gregory Contas's books, Return of the Knights and Wolf of Withervale by Joaquin Baldwin. And moving on to the right, again by Gregory Contas, this is The Night of the Moon, a prequel novella to the series. And this is actually a book sleeve with an illustration of The Hobbit. Really beautiful book sleeve that I got from Illumicrate. But below that, this is Sea of Souls by N.C. Scrimgeour, The Skin and the Pack by J.E. Hannaford, and then Obsidian Awakening by Sienna Frost, Burn Red Skies by Christine Espinosa Rosero, and then Elizabeth Bear's books, Steels of the Sky, Range of Ghosts, and Shattered Pillars, City of Lies and also Hollow Empire by Sam Hawke, and then Fate of the Fallen by Kelkate, and then this is the Takes Kalan series by Arkady Martin, A Memory Called Empire and A Desolation Called Peace, and then The Unspoken Name by A.K. Larkwood, and then this is Jean Le Flambeau by Hanu Rajaniemi, and finally The Stone Knife by Anna Stevens. And moving on to the right, from the top, we have In the Shadow of Their Dying by Michael Fletcher and also Anna Smith-Spark, and then The Iron Crown by L.L. McRae, Ebony Gate by Julia V. and Ken Bebel. After that, we have Paladin Unbound and Mystic Reborn by Jeffrey Spite, and then The Legend of Blackjack by I.R. Witham, Darkblade Assassin by Andy Pellegrin, 11 Cycle by Kian Ardalan, love that book, and then Violence and Vigilance by David Tillis, and then From Gold to Iron and Rust, Sul by J. Davis and also Kay Grierson. And on the bottom, we have We Break Immortals by Thomas Howard Riley and War of the 12 Omnibus series by Alex Robbins. And the last stack here, we have, for the first four, this is Chronicles of the Long War series by A.J. Smith. And below that, we have Spin of Fate by A.A. Vora, and then Jump Nuts by Hao Qingfang, I'm Afraid You've Got Dragons by Peter S. Beagle, The Dragons of Deepwood Fen by Bradley Bayliu, and then this is Janice Andrews' books, The Keeper's Origins Trilogy, Dragon's Reach, Raven's Ruin, and Phoenix Rising. And this is actually, I got this one from Ryan. I always use this coaster every time I drink tea, coffee, or water. And this is a photo of Chocoboy. Ta-da! Look at him, so majestic. But yeah, this is my keyboard. This is my computer. This is a picture of Malenia versus Radahn. Of course, this is from Elden Ring. And then below here, this is actually a playmat I got from Raidmark. I've been using this for quite a while now, and I am really happy to have received this. I think they are very useful. Yeah, I did get another one. I haven't used that one yet. But yeah, here there is another stack of books. Yeah, this is, well, as you can see, this is not a very organized bookshelf tour. It is different from a lot of booktubers, I bet. But I have to do it. I have to make do with what I have, okay? With the space that I have. Let's start from the top. This one is the Ileborn Saga by Daniel T. Jackson. This is the Broken Binding Press edition. And then The Price of Power by Michael Michel. The Gunmetal Gods by Zamil Akhtar. Lightblade by Zamil Akhtar. And this one is the Tapestry of Fate series by Matt Larkin, a Greek mythology-inspired fantasy series. And then this is The Bleeding Stone and also the sequel, The Children of the Black Moon by Joseph John Lee. And then we have the Divinity's Twilight series by Christopher Russell. And then this is the Hybrid Helix series by J.C. M. Byrne, the first 4 books in the series. And finally, as I said before, this is the great copy of A Touch of Light by Tiago Abdallah, and also the sequel, A Shade of Mathis. I haven't read this one yet. I have read only the first book and the prequel novella, and yeah, I really need to continue. And finally, The Crew by Sadir Samir. And moving to the right, starting from the top, this is The Seven by Peter Newman. Below that is The Inheritance of Magic by Benedict Jaka, and then The Last War Trilogy by Mike Shackle. And here we have The Pact and Pattern Trilogy by J.T. Greathouse. This is the advanced reading copy of The Hand of the Sun King. I somehow received 2 of them, but I still haven't read The Pattern of the World yet, the third and the concluding volume to the trilogy. Really need to read that one as well. And then below that is Daughter of Red Winter by Ed McDonnell. and then the Darkwater Legacy series by Chris Wooding, and finally the Broken Binding edition of the Winnowing Flame trilogy by Jen Williams. And moving to the right, this is the last stack that I have here. This one, let's start from the top. This is Empire of the Wolf trilogy by Richard Swan, The Justice of Kings, Tyranny of Fate, and the Trials of Empire. And then this is the Elric of Melibone Omnibus edition published by Saga Press. Starting from the first one is Elric of Melibone, and then Stormbringer, and finally The White Wolf. This is Red Rising by Pierce Brown. This one is the Barnes & Noble edition, and this is the Fairy Loot edition, the Iron edition gifted to me by one of my patrons. Really thankful for that. And finally, we have 2 copies of Iron Gold, and then Dark Age, and finally Lightbringer. And on the right, we have the graphic novel of Elric of Melibone by Moorcock Blondell, and also Kano Tello and Kano Wretch. There are many names involved here, but this is a great series of graphic novels. I have read the graphic novels, but somehow haven't read the novels yet for Elric of Melibone. I really need to fix that. And on the right here, this is actually the candle that I got from Pitch and Wick. This one is Mount Takayubi, and at the back is that one is titled Kasantri. It is quite a good candle. I don't usually use them, but Pitch and Wick candle is really good. And this one is the Pandora box, a luxurious and also limited box set containing the entire Pandora Heart series by Jun Mochizuki. It is gorgeous. This is the most beautiful box set that I have ever seen, and this is one of my favorite manga series of all time. I really look forward to doing a second read of this one using this beautiful edition. Although these are 12 volumes, but each volume here, it actually contains 2 volumes. So technically, the series is actually 24 volumes. Really thankful to Yen Press for sending me this one. If you want to get this, I think it is still available on their website on a huge discount. So make sure to check that. And above that, this is a TV with a blanket that I got from Illumicrate of The Strange the Dreamer. And then above here, we have this floating bookshelves. We are near the end of this bookshelf tour. But let's start from the right, and then this time we will go to the left. Let's start from the top here. This is Richard Nell's books, The God King's Legacy, and then Michael Slater's books, Great Grimdark, character-driven Grimdark series, Valley of the Free, which is a prequel novella, and then Solace Lost, Wisdom Lost, and then Fate Lost. And here we have the Paterno trilogy by Dirk Ashton, a superb and underrated urban fantasy series. And this is Beyond Redemption by Michael Fletcher, The Look of a King by Tom Dumrell. Again, this one is by Dirk Ashton and also by David Estes. This is Kraken Rider Z. And back to Michael Fletcher's books. This is Swarm and Steel. And then the second and the third book in the Manifest Delusion series, The Mirror's Truth and A War to End All. And below that, we have Bolt Ascension and also The Severing Sun by Von Roycroft. Bolt Ascension is actually the sequel to this one. I have 2 copies because one, it contains a mistake, and Von Roycroft was kind enough to send me a new copy of it. And moving to the left, from the top, we have first the Sorcerer's Song trilogy by Brian D. Anderson. I have read 2 of them, and above that is the Empire's Ruin by Brian Staffley. This is the audiobook, the physical audiobook edition. And let's move on below. This is the 5 Warrior Angels trilogy by Brian Lee Durfee. I own these 3, and all of them are actually signed and personalized by Brian. Really thankful for that. And below that, this is pretty much all of them are Brian. So technically, this is like the Brian floating bookshelves. Yeah. So below the 5 Warrior Angels, we have the Unhewn Throne series by Brian Staffley. This one is the first trilogy, Emperor's Blade, Providence of Fire, and then The Last Mortal Bond. After that, we have Skullsworn, which is a standalone prequel spin-off to the trilogy. And finally, a copy of The Empire's Ruin by Brian Staffley. The best book by Brian Staffley so far, in my opinion, and I am really looking forward to the sequel whenever it's ready. And moving on to the left, this is pretty much the Steven Erickson's floating bookshelf. You know the drill here. This is Malazan, Book of the Fallen, Book 1 until Book 10. And then we have The God is Not Willing, and finally the Karkanas trilogy, which consists so far of Forge of Darkness and also Fall of Light. And now we have arrived at the final section, and let's start from the top here. As you can see here, this is pretty much, well, the Joe Abercrombie's portion. All of this, it is the Joe Abercrombie section. Let's start from the left. This is the box set of the First Law trilogy and also the standalone trilogy. And above that, we have the paperback edition of the Shattered Sea trilogy, the only books by Joe Abercrombie that I haven't read yet. And moving on to the right, this is again similar to the previous box set I just talked about, but this time this is the hardcover edition, the broken binding edition of the First Law trilogy and also the standalone trilogy. Above that, we have 2 copies of Sharp Ends, a paperback edition and also the hardcover edition. But moving on to the right of the standalone trilogy, we have the Age of Madness trilogy, both the UK hardcover edition and also the US hardcover edition. Above that, we have the Subterranean Press edition of The Great Change and Other Lives. Great collection of short stories, but this is definitely the highlight. My most treasured special edition right now, most likely. This is the Blade itself, Curious King edition, the most beautiful book that I own right now at the number 1 spot. It is absolutely gorgeous. And now this is the last portion. This one is The Realm of the Elderlings by Robin Hobb. Starting from the left, this is Farseer trilogy, and then the Lifeship Traders trilogy, and then this one is the Tawny Man trilogy, and then the Rainwild Chronicles Quartet, and finally the Fitz and the Fool trilogy. And behind that, behind these 2 stack of books, this is the Inheritance and also the Willful Princess and the Piebald Prince by Robin Hobb as well. This is a collection of short stories, The Inheritance. And behind the Gentleman Bastards by Scott Lynch, behind that there is Assassin's Apprentice and also Royal Assassin, as you can see there, and also Assassin's Quest. That one is the illustrated edition with illustrations by Magali Villeneuve. But back here, these are the last books on my bookshelf tour. This is the Kingkiller Chronicle series by Petrik Rothfuss. This one is the paperback edition of The Name of the Wind, and then The Wise Man's Fear, and finally The Slow Regard of Silent Things. And this is the 10th anniversary edition of The Name of the Wind by Petrik Rothfuss with illustrations by Dan Dos Santos. It is a beautiful edition. And this is the final book, Sherlock Holmes and the Adventure of a Dozen Favorites, the Amaranthine edition. Beautiful letterpress edition. Really need to read this one as well. So yeah, to recap this final exhibit and also, well, this is the ending of this bookshelf tour video updated as of March 2024. Well, this is in total more than 1,000 books. And thank you so much for watching my bookshelf tour video. I know this is a lot to take in, and I think this is officially the library of Petrik Leo now, because it is said that if you have more than 1,000 books in your collection of books, well, it is officially a library. Well, I guess it is officially a library now. And yeah, I'm really grateful for everything. This video was really hard to make, not gonna lie. It really took me some time to compile everything. And I'm happy with how everything turns out, and I hope you had a great time watching through my collection of books. I have no idea when I will do another updated bookshelf tour video. I think it will be a while before I make another one. For this one, I think it was 3 years before I made this video, and I am not sure when I will again do it. Maybe 2 years? We will see. Maybe, hopefully for the next bookshelf tour video, I will have a much more organized bookshelf. Many more bookshelves, and hopefully I can organize everything into them, not stack them everywhere like this. So yeah, I think that's pretty much from me today. As always, I just want to say thank you so much once again, and thank you for your support. Bye-bye. Lastly, I want to say thank you so much once again to all my patrons who keep on supporting me.